Tuesday. JD here. Good to have you on board. We always appreciate when you find some time to spend it with us here on the program. Mucho apreciado. Horrible Espanol there. Marcelo shaking his head in complete disgust. 2 years of Spanish down the drain. Marcelo working the dials. Brad producing the program. Emails at the website, jerrydoyle.com. Poll question up for you today. New data confirms that obesity is costing more in additional medical spending than smoking. Cars are burning 1 billion gallons of gasoline more a year due to excess weight. Should fat people be stigmatized like smokers to change their ways? Your choices? Absolutely, it's only fair. No to fatties, yes to smokers. Yes to fatties, no to smokers, or no for both. 31%, absolutely, it's only fair. 69% say no, stigmatizing both smokers and fatties. Fatties being people, not blunts. You can answer it there bluntly or here at 800-876-4123. What? It's way past 420?
Yeah, Willie Nelson's birthday was yesterday.
Willie Nelson's birthday. It's all over. We have to move on. I was looking at this. I don't know why I took great joy in this story today in Reuters about fat America. As America's waistline expands, costs soar. I do understand why. Because it's all part of what I brilliantly predicted in my tome, my first and only novelization of my thoughts and feelings and writings. A little Rush Limbaugh there for you. In my book, Have You Seen My Country Lately? America's Wake-Up Call. Now, my publisher at the time, 3 years ago when I was doing the book, was a little concerned that I started the book off with Chapter 1, Smoke for the Children. And it starts like this. I smoke cigarettes because I love kids. With every drag on a cigarette, I'm doing my part to help support all the needy children in America forced to grow up in a world without health insurance. Sound preposterous? Let's look at the facts. And I go through taxes on tobacco and the stigmatization of smokers and how government wants to get involved in every nook and cranny of the English muffins of our lives. And I started with cigarettes because it's not just about cigarettes. And I know it's a stupid habit. I do it. I shouldn't. I should pay more for health insurance. Under Obamacare, I won't have to. I won't be penalized for my own stupidity. But I go through stupid government policy, stupid decisions that are made by even dopier politicians, and all how it's done under the guise of raising money by going after those people, the low-hanging fruit, the smokers, the drinkers, the gamblers. And I talk about how this is easy. This is a laydown for government. But in other people not standing up for my right to be stupid and smoke a cigarette, or other people to drink alcohol, or to gamble their money away, and to make the decisions of how they want to live or ruin their own lives, or shorten it for that matter, those decisions should be left up to us, not to the government. And I say in the book that sooner or later, they're going to come around to figuring out what it is that you like, you enjoy, what you incorporate in your life, and they're going to decide that now that they've picked the low-hanging fruit, they have to go a little higher up the tree. And sooner or later, it's going to get to you in some way, something you like, something you do, something you enjoy, something you think you have the right to do, that you should be allowed to enjoy regardless of what the consequences are for yourself. And I understand smoking has the ramifications of secondhand smoke. Now there's third-hand smoke, and even consideration of fourth-hand smoke. I'd say we've entered the silly season there. But when I looked at the argument that was being made by the politicians who wanted to raise the taxes to get the insurance for the kids, I was making the point that, well, in fact, smokers cost the system overall less money. How so? We die sooner. But you see, that was one of the facts that they didn't want to incorporate into the argument, because then that would somehow undermine the argument. The argument goes that smokers end up costing about $160 billion a year more because they end up with more medical conditions that require much more hospitalization, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But in fact, the statistics bear out that we smokers die much sooner. And those stats were reiterated in this article about Fat America. Now, here's what I wrote about smokers weaning themselves out of the system, taking one for the team. The Food and Drug Administration's regulation of tobacco cite figures from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention that smokers cost the country $96 billion per year in direct health care costs and an additional $97 billion in lost productivity. Sally Pipes points out smokers die earlier than non-smokers and actually provide a savings to Medicare, Social Security, pensions, and other government programs. The average smoker dies at age 77. The average non-smoker, 84. Those extra 7 years cost about $100,000 more in medical costs. A Dutch study published in 2008 backs up these numbers. Healthcare costs for smokers were about $326,000 from age 20 on, compared with $417,000 for thinner and healthier people. The reason? Healthy people live longer. But now the stigmatization of smokers is something they want to avoid with fat people. But let's look at the stats. Fat people don't die at the same rate that smokers die. Smokers die early enough that they save Social Security, private pensions, and Medicare trillions of dollars a year, according to Duke Medical University's Dr. Finkelstein. Mortality among the obese? Not so much. Higher medical cost, but also drugs and beta blockers for heart disease, diabetes, drugs, and other treatments that are keeping fat people alive longer, they call them obese, with the result that they incur astronomically higher medical expenses in old age, just like their slimmer peers. But we don't want to stigmatize fat people. Why? Why not? I mean, if we're going to have pictures of people with holes in their throats, shaving around the hole, or trying to hold the little Star Trek device up to their throat and go, "Oh, can you understand what I am saying?" Why can't we do it with fat people? I think we should have pictures of, you know how like they suck fat out of people's bodies, liposuction, and didn't Oprah Winfrey come out with like 50 pounds of fat in a bag or 100 pounds of fat in a bag? That's disgusting, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, good for her that she lost the weight. But why don't we just have giant posters of that in the candy aisle in the grocery store? Or maybe we should have a picture of pre-Oprah and post-Oprah at every fast food joint in America and say, you make the call. Which would you prefer? Carrot sticks or deep-fried Twinkies? I mean, if we're going to stigmatize, let's stigmatize. Secondhand fat. Why not? Why don't we go there? Because guess what? Obese people actually cost non-obese people money in their health care premiums. Why? Because when you take a look at obese workers, when you take a look at the cost of including their additional cost of being treated, 50% in additional costs get added to these programs because people are fat. Now, how about this one? What about the environmental concerns that we heard about with smoking? You're putting smoke in the air. You're polluting, and you're polluting the environment with secondhand smoke. You're killing the environment. You're going to burn a hole in the ozone layer, and then all that stuff's going to get in, and we're all going to be melting like the Wicked Witch of the East with a bucket of water thrown on her. But guess what? Fat people are responsible for cars burning 1 billion gallons more of gasoline a year based upon the weight today relative to the weight people were back in 1960. How about this one? Obamacare. Going forward, employers are going to have the option of charging obese workers 30 to 50% more for health insurance. Now, people who don't want the stigmatization of fat people are concerned about that, and they want to end size discrimination. They think it's not fair. The percentage of Americans who are obese tripled since 1960, 34%. The number of morbid obesity has risen sixfold. The numbers speak for themselves. Obese men take 5.9 more sick days a year. Obese women, 9.4 more sick days a year. Absenteeism, how much does that cost employers? $6.4 billion a year. There's another phenomenon with fatties known as presentism, where you're there, but you're not. Even though you're there, You can't really do the job because you have pain, stiffness, shortness of breath, or other obstacles because of your girthiness, like you're having a very tough time getting up the stairs. The very obese lose 1 month of productivity work per year. That cost $30 billion. Obese men rack up an additional $1,152 a year in medical spending. Obese women, $3,613. The cost, $190 billion a year in additional medical spending as a result of obesity, which is 21% of all U.S. healthcare expenditures. And the non-obese have to pay for the obese third-party expenditures, which is $3,222 each year per obese men and $967 for women. Excuse me, I have those numbers backwards. And the average obese person loses 1 month of productive work each and every year. Why wouldn't we want to stigmatize these people? What special carve-out do fatties have in America? Why aren't the politicians saving the environment? Why aren't they doing more to bring down the cost of health care? But Brad had a good point about this morning. When did we all of a sudden become obese, and when did we all of a sudden see this as an issue? And do we really want the government giving us that BMI, that body mass index? Because if the government can't do government right, do we want the government determining who is obese and who isn't? Do we want the government determining who gets treatment and who doesn't? Do we want the government actually get involved in yet another area of our lives, supposedly in an effort to make our lives better? But in reality, it's just all about the power grab, and it's all about the do-re-mi.
Jerry Doyle.
Oh man, that food is fat and greasy, hot or cold.
Extra medical costs borne by the non-obese. Higher taxes to support Medicaid. Higher health insurance premium. Third-party expenditures. Obesity was similar, but morbid obesity raised costs by 50% a year, adding 20% overall to medical costs. If we can stigmatize smokers, we should stigmatize fat people, or we should probably avoid it for both. But then again, that doesn't put money in the coffers of the people who are addicted to power and spending. 800-876-4123 is the number. Speaking of money in the coffers, Apple has a whole lot of do-re-mi because they're not paying their fair share of federal taxes. We're going to discuss that at the bottom of the hour with the financial editor from Town Hall, John Ransom, and Gary Shapiro, president and CEO of the Consumer Electronics Association, is going to join us in the next hour to talk about his book, The Comeback, about innovation, and also 50 ways the Obama administration is crushing the economy and job creation. Lots to get to on the program today. I'm Jerry Doyle. Join me.
This is the Jerry Doyle Show.
It's fat and greasy, hot or cold. He's fat and greasy, head, heel, fat and greasy, a big